everyone. Welcome to the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for episode 24 of season 2024. About halfway through the year, and we're working on the plaster around the Taggart Mountain. Gonna show you what I did this last week, adding plaster. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Like the video, please. Definitely would be awesome if you would do that. This is how the layout looked at the Taggart Mountain area. There you have the Weber River. I had the cardboard forms in, cardboard strip forms in, covered by rosin paper. Took a couple days to get this done last week. I also have the tunnel portals placed in. Had some special work done on the end there so that it resembled the prototype. You may want to check out last week's update if you haven't seen it yet. See how this all came together. This week then, the goal was to get plaster on all of this so we can continue to move forward in the completion of scenery in this area. Taggart Mountain is probably one of the signature areas of the Evanston sub. There are numerous different signature areas. This is, I think, one of them. People will be able to hopefully recognize it. In adding the plaster, their first layer or the first coat is the mesh plaster gauze. Comes in rolls, and you dip it in water and then place it down over the forms that you have built, and then you just put strip after strip. Have to cut the rolls into smaller pieces and just kind of lay it in there. Some people have different ways of doing it. Sometimes people like to double it up to make it stronger. You can see here I'm kind of concentrating on making sure that there's clearance for the piers and the bridges to go onto the piers. Turned out I didn't really have anything to worry about. It fit in there perfectly. This whole area here took 15 rolls. I bought these plaster gauze rolls from Amazon, and the ones I purchased were 6 inches wide by I think 15 feet long, something around that area, and they came 8 rolls to a pack. I bought 2 packs. As I was putting that on, I was thinking I wasn't going to have enough, but it turns out I had just enough. 1 roll left over. If you use plaster gauze, please do not buy it from the hobby shop. From, I think, Woodland Scenics sells them. It's way more expensive if you get it through the hobby shop. It's better. Search out Amazon. They have a lot of different resources. I always try and figure out the most square feet of gauze I can get for the dollar. This was 8 rolls, 6 inches by 15 feet, and I think I got each pack for like $16. So this is about $30 worth of plaster gauze to cover all this. Now, it's not real strong with just 1 layer of plaster gauze, and so then I mix up 50% mixture of plaster and water. Usually when you do plaster, it's 2 parts plaster to 1 part water, and I usually will cut that instead at 1 part plaster to 1 part water. That makes it very soupy. But with it being very thin, then I can just use a paintbrush to paint the plaster on. And so I just brush the plaster onto the plaster gauze, and you're able to remove all the texture of the gauze and smooth it out, and then it also gives it added strength. Now, this is still not the type of strength where you could stand on it or anything like that. In fact, if someone leaned on it, not being careful, they could put a good dent in it. So it's not super strong, but it doesn't really, if you don't lean on it or anything, you'll be fine. It's kind of nice because you can kind of change the shape of it a little bit still if you want. But now this is the drop down section for my electrical panel, which is behind the backdrop here. And I had glued the cardboard to the backdrop, but of course when I cut the plaster so that I could drop this down, it didn't have the backdrop to support it anymore, so I went ahead and took some paint stirrers and placed them in there and glued them in so that there would be some support. I didn't really attach, I just want to make sure that it wouldn't fall, since basically the only thing it's hanging on to is the edge of the layout of the roadbed there. Here's how it goes back up again. It works pretty sharp. Again, the electrical panel's behind the backdrop there, so I needed to get this done. I cut the plaster with a Dremel tool, rotary cutoff disc in there. Was able to cut through that without any trouble. It was hardened, but not completely dry, so there wasn't any dust problems while I cut it. After I cut the plaster, I had to go in with a knife and then cut the cardboard. But anyway, that worked out pretty good. I also spray painted the tunnel portals so that they were the correct color. Put the bridge back in, and it was all set to go. Now, next week, I am going to be putting some rock onto this side of the mountain. And the way the Taggart Mountain is, you have one side that's a little bit steeper, and it has a rock face, and then the other side of the mountain is not as steep, more of a gentle slope, and then it has a ground cover on it, some grasses and so forth growing. So this is the rock molds I have on hand. These smaller ones are from Mark Bridgewater. Let me borrow those. This is what the rock I want the rock to look like. You notice how it kind of goes up to a peak. So definitely one side is pretty much all rock. There is still some vegetation on there, which we'll still have. So this side here is going to be the rock face. And I have these big, huge molds. These I purchased myself. Next week when I show you the results, remember hopefully who makes these. But I'm going to do one big rock mold. We'll see how that works. That's a huge rock mold. Doesn't quite cover. I'll probably fill in the rest of it with some of the smaller ones, or maybe use part of the bigger ones. Now, I also need, for rock faces, need to do something for this end here. And I don't want anything that's too deep, because as you can see from the picture, it's not a lot of relief in the rocks. It's actually pretty smooth. This is the area that was blasted off for the interstate that went in. So I might use some of these smaller ones here. We'll have to kind of see how it goes. Maybe use this one for the top, and then the larger ones, do that for the bottom. I might use the same mold for both of them, but I don't want it to be a real. I want some rock features in there, but not with a lot of relief. So I don't want it something like this, where there's a lot of relief, because it has more of a smooth, flattened surface. So we'll see how that goes. All right, that's something to look forward to for next week. I'll probably do that in a day, and then hopefully get some paint and some ground cover on, get some color so it doesn't look like a snow scene. So step by step we're getting things moving and putting scenery on the layout. This is a side where it's going to be more ground cover, maybe a few rock molds on this side, because there is some rock still showing through on both sides. So we'll kind of see how that goes. They did put the bridge back in just so I could run trains. So pretty happy with it, how it looks. Now you can kind of see the webbing of the cardboard through the plaster, but when it's all painted and covered with ground cover, that won't be as visible. And of course I have to still put in the backdrop. I have some ideas on doing the backdrop, trying to find a picture that has the Weber River in it and then going off to the right or to the left. Probably would be best to have it going off to the left. So I want that for where the Weber River here goes into the backdrop. Here we have a stack train coming through. Tunnel portals definitely look a lot better painted. Looking forward to getting the bridge put in here. The two through truss bridges, have a couple of them purchased from Central Valley. So once I get this Taggart Mountain tackled and done as far as the basic scenery there, that I'm going to put in the bridges here across the Weber River again. So that's going to be something I'm looking forward to, and definitely going to be a cool part of the layout. Here we have the DPU pushing the stacks through the mountain. So stay tuned for next week's update. Hopefully this will look much further along. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great week. Stay tuned for an unboxing from Lombard Hobbies this week. Should be pretty cool. Thanks again. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.